Vonnie, thanks for taking this on. As I said, this has been something that's bothered me for decades. This company has bothered me for decades, but this is going to a level we never imagined possible. Our government's getting involved with it. We've had, briefs written by the Department of Justice in favor of liability protection. But how is this rally coming along? Because I know you've been working hard, to get it all together. I've been in the background a little bit, but I love that you've sort of taken charge here.
Well, it's been the incredible collaborative effort of so many different individuals and groups coming together for this cause. It is absolutely incredible what everybody's volunteering to do with their time, with their money, with their efforts to make sure this is the biggest food movement rally Washington and the world has ever seen. Right now, we are up against Bayer, which has enormous power in Washington. They have been taking over every single branch of government, the executive branch, with the amicus brief that they submitted to the Supreme Court in favor of Monsanto Bayer. They've taken over our state legislators, having 21 different states look at pesticide liability shields. They have taken over our Congress with a farm bill that has provisions in it with pesticide liability language. They are taking over everyone in Washington, and it may seem like we are David versus Goliath, but I've been part of this fight for long enough to realize that when we all come together and we put our political differences aside, we put people over poison and we do what's right, we can be louder, we can be more organized, we can be more powerful, even more powerful than the most money in the world is, which I feel like they have at the moment. I mean, their market share increased by 35 billion since that brief was submitted to the Supreme Court in favor of them. And so, this is something they are taking very seriously. I'm actually a little bit nervous because for me, this fight is very personal. This company, Monsanto Bayer, you related them to Satan. I think they are just as evil as Satan in a way, because they know their product causes cancer. They're causing people harm and they want to get away with it. But also they try to shut up scientists. They try to suppress science from coming out in our government and in the press and in the media and through advocates like me. I mean, they took over my Wikipedia page. They created a social media database called Vfluence where they doxed my personal information and put my family information on it. They harassed me at my speaking engagements to the point where I'd have to have security. They went over and they hired scientists that looked independent and were, experts to come after me in every single article that was written about me when I was making my when I was making my career as a food activist. And they did whatever they could to try to destroy my credibility. The best thing that I did when this was all happening, instead of retreating and stopping what I was doing, is I got some great advice from some incredible activists who had been doing this a lot longer than I had. And they said, Vonnie, this mission isn't about you. It's not about what they say about you in the press. It's about what you're doing for all the people that are hurting and that need to hear this message. You need to keep going. And so I started to call the energy of the leaders before me, the Rachel Carsons of the world and others, to bring in that energy into me, and so that I could literally turn off my Google alerts and turn off the filters to all the things these evil people were getting people to say about me and trying to stop me and stop this information from getting out so that I could keep going. And so people ask me, why do I want to create this rally? It's because we've had enough. We do not consent to being poisoned. We do not consent for a company to continue to get away with causing cancer and not be held liable. We also don't consent to our government lying to us. The EPA needs to tell the truth when they do their glyphosate review this year. That's expected at the end of this year. They need to tell the people that this product causes cancer. We already have seen the science, and we know that this is the truth, and we expect the truth. We the American people are not stupid. We deserve to know the truth. Farmers deserve to know the truth, and so that the truth can create the marketplace that we need to live in, and everything can happen organically from there.
Amazing, Vonnie. You've put together a heck of a list of speakers that people can check out at peopleversuspoison.org. It's going to be a spectacular day. Speakers going all day while we continue to march right out there in front of the steps of the Supreme Court. We're going to make our presence known, but we're joined now by one of those dynamic speakers, Alexandra Munoz. Alexandra, thank you for joining me. Tell me, you're a toxicologist. Why, as a toxicologist, is this an issue that you're interested in?
Well, as a toxicologist, thank you so much for having me here to talk about this important topic. As a toxicologist, I study toxins and different types of poisons and how they enter into cells and lead to the events that produce cancer, chronic diseases, neurodevelopmental damage, endocrine disruption, and all kinds of other impacts. And so I became interested in this issue because glyphosate is a carcinogen. And as you guys have mentioned, that information has been heavily suppressed by Monsanto for decades. And the tactics that they have used have been incredibly aggressive. And now, for the first time, that information is really breaking through the silence that Monsanto has tried to put onto it. And so this issue came to my attention that Bayer was pursuing immunity at the state legislatures at the beginning of last year, and there was no toxicologist providing testimony against their legislation because it's such a risky thing to do. And so I took it upon myself to review the literature of glyphosate's carcinogenicity, evaluate it for myself, and I saw that, yes, this is definitely a carcinogen. It's genotoxic, it damages DNA, and there's a lot of evidence to support that it really is causing the non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in people that have been exposed from Roundup.
You know, when I was just looking up that IARC decision back in 2015, and even when you Wikipedia it or, AI, Google it, it says that there are scientists that say that this information was manipulated. It should never have been given this cancer rating, that just because it's losing in court doesn't mean. There's lots of scientists, including the EPA, does not believe this causes cancer. So to all those, that is the argument they make. They obviously use a very powerful media machine to put that out there. What are the odds that this product does not cause cancer, that they're right, we're wrong? I mean, when you've looked at it, when you look at the science, is it possible they're right, we're missing something?
Absolutely not. This 100% causes cancer. There's really strong evidence showing that it's genotoxic, that it causes something called DNA double strand breaks. And that type of DNA damage is very hard for the cell to repair, and it can lead to a lot of other events in the cell that then precipitate the cancer in forming. And that's what we see in the animal model studies that have recently been released, where long-term exposure to glyphosate on its own and glyphosate as a formulation in different versions of that formulation cause multiple types of cancer. And you can see it right here in this chart. There's numerous types of cancer: skin, thyroid, liver, urinary cancer, and there's also different types of leukemias. And we're seeing this from any version of glyphosate in formulation and on its own, and at a number of different doses, even those that are regulatorily low considering. So there's really very strong conclusive evidence now showing that there is a causal link between glyphosate and cancer.
Well, it certainly appears that's what courts are deciding. Yeah, Vonnie, what are your thoughts?
Alexandria, when you're going to these different state legislators and you're giving your testimony, who's the person in the room that's against you? Like, what is how are they organized against you? I'm really interested to learn that, because it's amazing how much money they have and how they've infiltrated all of our branches of government. And it's just important for people to recognize like what we're up against.
Yes, that's so important. They have an incredibly strategic, well-funded operation pushing these immunity bills. They have lobbyists from organizations like Farm Bureau that are advocating for the bills. They have lobbyists from Modern Ag Alliance, which is Bayer's front group. They're trying to make it seem like it's coming as a request from farmers, but they have essentially convinced the farmers in different states that without this immunity bill, they are going to remove glyphosate from the market. There won't be any glyphosate available, and it threatens their businesses. So they have all of the farmers in these states very scared. They get them to contact their legislators. They get them to come to the committee hearings and provide testimony saying that they need glyphosate to farm. They also have representatives from Modern Ag Alliance and Farm Bureau representing their interests and speaking to the fact that farmers know how to read labels and a number of other things that are not relevant to the question. And oftentimes, really what they've done is they've heavily misrepresented the legislation to legislators. So a lot of times you have legislators that are advocating for the legislation that don't even realize it's a liability shield. They don't believe it when we tell them, and they argue with us about it in every state. And that's what they're doing now with the Farm Bill. G.T. Thompson is telling people that Section 10205 is not a liability shield when it most clearly is. And so that's part of their strategy as well, is to simply trick everyone into voting for this. It's very deceptive.
You know, one of the difficulties, Vonnie, which sort of comes up there is they're trying to pit, citizens in this country that have to eat this food against the farmers, the American farmer, which is, the backbone of this nation and such an important group. And we've even, when I've talked with you, we try to talk about the language. This isn't about farmers. They find themselves in the middle of this. But, and I think about they're the ones suffering the greatest health issues in their families. They're seeing higher rates of cancers in their children, in their families. But how do we, do you think about the future? I mean, obviously we don't want liability protection, but how long do we think it would take to get off of this stuff? What is the mission to sort of speak to farmers, and, what do you think has to happen there?
I mean, there's a chart that I just published on foodbabe.com just showing the differences between the Roundup regulations in the U.S. versus Europe. And even if we got to the European standard, which is to remove all desiccation use of glyphosate, the spraying of wheat and oats and beans and other produce right before harvest, that would eliminate a lot of the human exposure. That's one way that we could reduce the amount of glyphosate, but have that biggest health impact. Also, we could do things like making sure that the formula is safer, like the one that they use in Europe. There's certain adjuvants and other ingredients that they take out of the formula in Europe. I mean, those are common sense things that could happen as a result of our widespread awareness here. I mean, I think the most important thing that I am looking for is the truth to come out of our government agencies. We have for too long had captured agencies that have not told the truth about these chemicals, and as the American people, we deserve to know the truth. Just like Secretary Kennedy has been so incredible at telling the truth about artificial food dyes and food additives and certain other things. We need the same kind of truth coming out of our other agencies. The USDA and the EPA need to tell the truth about these farming chemicals and tell the farmers we need to look for a way to start to reduce these chemicals. No one's looking for a ban overnight or to do something out, that would hurt the farming economy or hurt, our food system overnight. It's really about how do we really truly get people off of the chemical food that's being produced. And when we look at what it's producing, it's largely ultra processed foods, right? It's a lot of ethanol. It's a lot of feed to feed animals, but then the other stuff is also being used for ultra processed foods. So if we really truly want to make America healthy again, we need to get off of this type of crop, the corn and the soy, that's it's not nutritious when it's boiled down into these small additives that end up in these ultra processed foods, and it's not nourishing. We need biodiverse farms, more regenerative farming in this country so that we can get a wide variety of produce and vegetables that are farmed here in the United States, that are local, more nutrient dense into our bodies. And I think that's ultimately what we want to get to. Now, that obviously takes a long time, but we need to start making some of these common sense things that our European counterparts that see better health outcomes are already experiencing.
Vonnie, I've been sitting on, some of these Zoom calls with the speakers. One of the things I find really amazing about this conversation is it really is crossing the political aisle at a time where so many people are finding they cannot have any conversation when it comes to what might be politics. Obviously, this is an issue that is in the news, but there's real crossover here between organic consumer groups, environmental groups, and then, those that want medical freedom, all of it. It's really, so tell me a little bit about that. What has it been like putting together one of the first coalitions I've seen probably in the last decade that does cross the aisle?
It is really incredible. Everyone's putting their interests aside. We're all coming together for this one moment. We realize how powerful Bear is, and we realize that the only way to defeat them is to all come together. We've got speakers like Representative Thomas Massey and Shelley Pingree, both different sides of the aisle, coming together for a no immunity for glyphosate act that they are sponsoring in Congress. We have nonprofits like Friends of the Earth and Center for Food Safety and the Center for Biological Diversity and Beyond Pesticides and Farm Action, Children Health's Defense Front, of course, ICANN, Moms Across America, and others, all coming together under this large tent to showcase that we've had enough. We're all former Congress people are coming forward, like Dennis Kucinich and Tim Ryan. We have farmers coming, which is so incredible, like Joel Salatin. So you're going to be hearing from some incredible people. There's going to be a ton of advocates and people that you recognize from social media, but also really important people and visionaries that have been, very vocal in this space, care deeply about what's happening. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see all of our voices come together that day in front of the Supreme Court while the arguments for Monsanto versus Darnell are happening inside the building. And I think that energy is going to be something that cannot be replicated anywhere else. So if you can get to DC and march with us, put on your walking shoes, bring a sign, just make sure it doesn't have a pointy end. We don't want any weapons. And make sure that you come and use your voice. You're going to be marching. You're going to be hearing some amazing speakers. You're going to be part of history. This is something that I know the press has been calling nonstop about. They're all going to be there capturing this moment. This is going to be a moment that is historic, that we've never seen before, that we're putting this together to say enough's enough. It's not okay to submit an amicus brief to the Supreme Court on behalf of Bayer. It's not okay to have an executive order that puts glyphosate as a national defense priority and gives them any kind of immunity. It's not okay for a farm bill to have pesticide immunity language or to put off pesticide reviews for 5 more years by the EPA. It's not okay for these state legislators like the one in Kentucky that just passed to give these pesticide companies liability immunity. It's not okay to do this. And so you can go to thepeopleversuspoison.org, and you can do a lot of things. First of all, you can RSVP to come to the rally. This is also where you're going to watch the rally. If you can't come and you're at home, you can live stream it from there. Many people are going to be live streaming all over X and social media, but that's the one place you can go. Then also you can go and you can get a t-shirt to support us. All the proceeds go towards the production costs of this event. It is an enormous thing to pull off, yeah. And it's taken everybody's nickel and dime to make it happen, and it's just incredible that everybody is coming together to chip in to make this happen. You can buy a T-shirt, you can buy a hat, something to help support. It would be incredible if you could. And then the most important thing you can do, because what we are hearing is that the Farm Bill is going to the House the week of that rally. I think all stars are aligning, Del. We have a really interesting situation where we're all going to be descending upon Washington, and that Farm Bill is going to be right there being heard. And so we need to make our legislators, our representatives in the House, understand that we will not support candidates that support pesticide liability shields. All of that language is under the Take Action link on the peopleversuspoison.org site.
Vonnie, thank you for your great work putting this together. Alexandra, I want to thank you for being a part of it, bringing your knowledge and your voice to this, your expertise. I also want to thank you for taking your morning to just inform all of us about this incredible event. I will see you April 27th in Washington, D.C. I want to say to all of you out there that are watching, this is what makes me who I am. My mom used to drag me to these things. Bring your kids. Show them what it means to be a part of the civic, connection with, a nation of, for, and by the people. We have to represent ourselves now because it looks like, the courts may not, or our Congress may not. The more people that are there, the more powerful the statement that we're making. So it's going to be beautiful, end of April in Washington, D.C. I hope we'll see you there, and certainly go and get a T-shirt or a bag or a hat because that's going to be, once in a lifetime merch. You can say, hey, I was there, I got it. It's also helping us put this whole thing together. So Vonnie, Alexandra, thank you so much. I'll see you in Washington, D.C.
Thank you, Del.
All right.
Thanks.